welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is Logan Stone.
How's it going? How's life?
Going good. Going
It's
good,
good.
I guess. It's been a day. Very tired. It's rainy here, too, so it's like at this very,
Yeah, it sounds like fall.
yeah. It's a rainy, overcast, tired day. But yeah, so thankfully I got to work from home today, so I didn't have to worry about driving in this until I had to leave after work real quick and go pick up some stuff. But other than that, mostly good. How's your day going? How is it in Florida?
75 degrees. It was really sunny out today. It's really nice out. It's beautiful. We don't get a whole lot of the fall downies like we would normally get. So, but yeah, no, I think that you guys normally get up there. I always think about that whenever I'm watching football, even like soccer, I guess, around this time because none of the Southern teams are in the playoffs. So at least this side of the East Coast. But I always look at the teams, and I'm always, especially the Philly game. I was watching Philly, and they're all bundled up on that river right there. I'm like, it looks awful.
It was a chilly day. It was a chilly day on what day was that? Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, that was chilly. Well, we're here to bring all the information about the games that just passed the Eastern Conference semi and the Western Conference semi, and we look ahead to the Eastern and Western Conference finals, which are, Logan, we're down to the Final Four. Final Four teams. 3 games left. 2 conference finals and a final. Whoever wins MLS Cup just needs 2 wins. 2 wins! And then we'll be there. So, looking forward to that. I will rant a little bit here about the prices for this conference final that I'm not able to go to. Standing room only $59. $59. So needless to say, I'm saving my money because I was talking with people that went last year because I didn't get a chance to go last year. And a spot that was $165 this year was $95 last year. So a huge, almost 50% increase or almost 100% increase. I don't know. I'm not good with math. It was a big increase from what it was last year to this year. And I'm dreading if the Union make the final and host it. I'm also looking forward to that if that happens, but I'm dreading it because I'm going to this game, I hope, and hopefully it doesn't hurt my wallet too much. But yeah, just a little frustrating with that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how expensive it was at other stadiums for I don't know how expensive it is for LA. I've heard like $200 to $1,000, which is insane for a conference final. But I guess if the demand is there, the demand is there.
I was looking at prices of the Orlando City playoff game, and they're free. I mean, you can go, and they don't seem to have any issues with you just walking in.
Yeah, it's because there's actually no game there.
Okay, I got it. Okay. It was weird. Same thing with the Yankees. I'm talking soccer, but their prices. But it is Jordan.
Actually, the Yankees game was very cheap. People say you can find tickets for $9 because they were on the brink of elimination.
Yeah, I saw that. But it'll be interesting to kind of see as the years go on how much prices go up. Just because I think the demand is there. I think as the Apple Plus deal gets going, and I think you're going to get more fans as we do start to have more games like the Leagues Nations and stuff like that, where you're playing League MX teams and things like that. I think you're going to have a huge increase in fans wanting to go to MLS stadiums. And then not to mention there's a World Cup coming up, and World Cup, I mean, we're going to gain a lot of fans, even with the one in Qatar. I think that you'll have a lot of MLS guys on display. And I think a lot of the guys will go, oh, where do they play? And it happens with every World Cup. I mean, that's how I got into Prem. So, yeah, I'm interested to kind of see where prices go from here. And unfortunately, I do think they're going to increase as the years go on.
That's the bad thing, right? I guess I've been living in this bubble where going to an MLS game is very affordable.
Yeah.
Even the playoff games I've been to, the U.S. Open Cup finals I've been to, Champions League games I've been to, have been relatively affordable. It's really just this year that I was like looking at tickets like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem. I don't know how some of these people do it. And I'm follow these Philly people, and they're like already booking flights to LA just in case. And they're like, I'm like, that's gonna probably be, if it's in LA, tickets are probably gonna be nuts. And I can't imagine a flight across country right now, how much that is. That, I don't know. It seems
Right.
I don't know how some of these people are able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like season tickets. I think mine, and they were great seats.
You get cheaper deals for playoff games too. That's how some of them doing it. Like some people that have season tickets got playoff tickets for like $50 that were originally like 90 something. So they were getting it for a pretty good deal.
But I mean, even just talking about like regular season tickets,
yeah, cheaper than other sports.
Oh gosh, like football. I mean, you have to pretty much you take out a second mortgage for NFL.
You have to join a wait list,
right? The Cubs especially. There was a while there where you had to be on a wait list, and they were doing like a lottery, and you were like 500th in line just to get a chance to get the last season ticket. So it's like it's insane how other sports kind of handle it, but it is unfortunate because I do think soccer is kind of trending in that direction, and because soccer only has 17 games right now, I mean it's going to get costly for a lot of people to go to games. So it is nice though, Jordan, to be able to turn on, Ticketmaster and go to like the best seats where you get like club food and everything else available. It's like $120 for just a single seat. Where in other sports, those things would be $400 to $500. So it's nice while we have it, but it's not going to last too long.
Yeah, but I guess it's growing the game. I don't know. It just seems tough that like I was thinking like if I had a family of 4, which I don't. Well, let's say I did, and I want my kids to go to the game or whatever, and everybody wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
The cheapest ticket was in the River End for $95, $92. You're looking at, with ticket fees, more than $400 without parking for a family of 4 to go if they're not season ticket holders. That's a lot. And then a lot of times you're not even going to sit in the River End if you're a family member because of the cursing. So those are the cheapest seats. So if you go outside of that, 95 on the other side of the stadium, behind the other goal. So I don't know. Just something to keep an eye out for. I remember when I bought my tickets to see them against Houston. I might have those tickets somewhere for their first ever playoff game. I don't think it was not super expensive. From my knowledge, from my memory, I guess, but that was also in 2011.
Hell, they were probably paying you to go. Like, please come.
Yeah.
In 2011, it was like, yeah. MLS, I mean, that was my last year in high school. I don't even remember MLS much. Although I lie. I do remember my neighbor had like the MLS with the old logo, like the blue and green with the soccer cleat. Yeah. I remember that logo. Yeah. And I remember him being a huge David Beckham fan. And landed on the fan. So
Galaxy bandwagoner.
Yeah, really.
All right. Here's some fun facts though before we get into it. This is from Joe Tanzi, who covers the Union. First time that both number 1 seeds have made the final in the conference finals since 2018. The first time since 2015 that the conference final round only has 1, 2, or 3 seeds. And the first rematch of an Eastern Conference final since DC versus Columbus in 97 to 99. So just some fun little what's going on with the playoffs here. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to think. Who would have been 2016? There had to be some of these lower seeds that slipped in here that I'm not thinking of right now. But it is kind of shocking to realize that, okay, it's been 7 years since the last time we only had 1, 2, or 3 seed in these spots. And actually, another fun fact is if NYCFC don't move on, Logan, guaranteed new MLS Cup winner this year, which is pretty fun. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm all for the chaos. So I don't know, give somebody else a chance because I feel like there's times where we're getting these ruts of just the same teams winning over and over again, or a Cascadian region team getting into the MLS Cup final. So give me some new blood. Let's get a new winner in.
Yeah, LAFC or Austin. Philly fans everywhere rooting for Austin. And if people don't know why, it is the only way right now that the Union can host MLS Cup final. If LAFC, because they won Supporter Shield, move on through Austin, then we are looking at a LAFC hosted final. And the only team that cannot host now is NYCFC because they are the 3 seed. We have a 1 and a 2 over on the west and a 3 and a 1 on the east.
Do you imagine an MLS Cup final, Jordan, on a baseball field?
Sadly, I can, and that's why I'm very happy it didn't work out that way. Knowing we're on like Big Fox at 4:00 on Saturday for MLS Cup final, and they're playing.
Everybody be watching,
tripping over the mound.
Yeah, there's a deep drive deep to left field. It's in the goal. It's in the goal.
Very happy. Game of the week. Oops, I just hit my microphone. Okay, game of the week. I thought in this was the LAFC LA Galaxy El Trafico. This thing went back and forth, Logan. We had Denise Boyanga scoring in the 23rd minute and Grand Sur tying it up in the 44th minute. Boyanga scoring again in the 80th minute with Joveljic scoring in the 85th. And then 90 plus third, Christian Arango making it 3-2 to LAFC in El Trafico in Banc of California Stadium. And man, Philly fans were cheering everywhere when LA Galaxy equalized late, and we're thinking we're going extra time. It's a late Thursday night. I was up for it. And then heartache at the very end here when the LAFC pulled it out. LAFC fans going nuts, of course. I'm not sure if you saw this, but Lakers and Clippers were playing that day at the old Staples Center, which is now like crypto.com or something arena. And for the first like quarter or two is very empty in there, that many people are like, oh my God, are they all at LAFC Banc of California Stadium? I think some people said it was probably just traffic and stuff, but still cool that, you know, that was like the hot ticket in town. They had 22,305 fans at Banc of California Stadium. And I think this really helps that opening game next year at the Rose Bowl, when at the Rose Bowl, when you have Galaxy versus LAFC, if they did not face off in the playoffs and have this big dramatic game, I think you could have been like, let's say Galaxy missed the playoffs, right? And you're like, okay, can they fill up the Rose Bowl? Yeah, maybe, because it's El Trafico. But now that you had this heated game and this rivalry that was beautiful and came down to the last minute and was back and forth, and now the next time they'll ever face each other since that playoff game, and the Galaxy's next game is that opening game at the Rose Bowl against LAFC, I think it can fill up. I think there's a good shot that can fill up.
Yeah, and I'm in the belief too that the Galaxy will add somebody. Like I really am truly in the belief that they go out and add a big ticketed item, just to, I think, compete with LAFC. And like you said, Jordan, I mean, going out off this game and maybe LAFC get to a final, maybe they win a final. Could you imagine coming off of that kind of season? Which I do, you know, there's a real chance that they do get to the final and maybe win it. So, I mean, if you consider that in with the LA Galaxy allure already, just because I think it's one of the most followed clubs in our league, I think that it's definitely going to fill the Rose Bowl. You're coming in off of World Cup as well, like all the fans kind of rejuvenated, ready for soccer. The next World Cup would be at the U.S. then. You've just come off a U.S. that hopefully the U.S. or a World Cup where the U.S. men's national team has put in a good performance. Maybe we get somebody that comes over here that played in the World Cup. You know, there's different rumblings around of different international players that could be on the move to the MLS for their final stint. But it really is interesting to kind of see this game play out the way that it did, just because I didn't think when LAFC went ahead at first, I was like, man, I don't know if LA Galaxy can kind of come back, especially at the Bank of California. And then they answer. Well, then they go down again, and then they answer. And it wasn't until late, Jordan. I mean, this thing was down to the final seconds.
When it was 80th minute, LAFC took the lead. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
But then 85th minute, Joveljic gets in there and equalizes. And I'm like, okay, maybe we're looking at something here. And then, the 90+3, very late. I mean, really, they probably only had to survive another couple minutes to get to extra time.
I fell asleep with the iPad laying next to me because I was laying Ashley wasn't home, so I had the iPad and I just can't stay up that late whenever there's school. But I was nodding off and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall asleep. And all of a sudden, I remember waking up and I remember it was LAFC celebrating. I was like, what is happening? I thought it was penalties, and then I was kind of blurry. It was all foggy. I was like, what is happening? So I had to turn over and go, what is that? And I was like, okay, LAFC won. So it was. And then I went back and watched the game as far as highlights are concerned. And it was a nice fight by the Galaxy. They put up a fight that I wasn't really ready for the Galaxy to put up. The one time I pick them, of course, Jordan, they don't do what I want them to do. But overall, man, this goes down as one of the better El Tráficos, I think, in their history that they've had.
Yeah. And LAFC are going through. And that gives them their 5th win. They're still one behind Galaxy, who has 6 wins in this matchup, but they get their 5th win. The last time that they were in the playoffs, LAFC won that game. They win it again this time. Galaxy now are going to have to make sure they get back to the playoffs, and probably they will hope that they face LAFC again and get some revenge. But be careful what you wish for. As Houston Astro fans keep pointing out, the Yankees kept chanting, we want Houston, and they get swept. So be careful who you want to face off against in these games. That's why I see a lot of Union fans we want NYCFC, and I'm like,
no,
I don't know if I want them.
Yeah, no, I never beg for an opponent. I've learned that never goes well. Ever, you can beg for people that'll be a better matchup. Just in 2016, I thought the Indians, now the Guardians. I was like, oh yeah, this will be great. The Cubs, I think
they push you to Game 7.
They pushed. Hell, they were up 3-1. So it was no, I'd rather not. It just never works out well. And just I think people were begging for Philly to get Cincinnati. And I'm like, you don't want anything to do with Cincinnati. I think people thought, oh, let's show Noonan who's boss, and we'll talk about that. But man, was it? I think a lot tighter than I think a lot of Philly fans. Not you, but there's a lot of Philly fans that thought they were going to run away.
That's why I wanted Red Bull.
Yeah,
that's why I wanted Red Bull.
They were
so
clearly
much.
the worst team. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I really wanted Red Bull because I felt like Cincy knows us so well. They were us, right?
Oh yeah.
People said that they might collapse under our fans and all that kind of stuff. They played a hell of a game. Let's move over to that game. Philly versus FC Cincinnati.
Ghost.
Finished 1-0 Union, which was both of our prediction, by the way. So we nailed that. This was Thursday, the 8:00 game. Andre Blake played a hell of a game here to keep this thing. I mean, Union looked shaky at the start. The ref, first time ever doing a playoff game, which was very noticeable. I've seen some people criticizing him for making bad calls. I felt like, for me, it was more of he had no flow of the game. It was stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And that does lead to some bad calls. It also leads to some uneven calls, right? Where it's okay, that's a foul, but this little ticky-tack, this very ticky-tack foul is a foul, but the one where he just got ran over isn't a foul. It led to stuff like that. But I like games being called, especially playoff games, lightly. And what I mean by that is let them play, right? Let them play, because when you let them play, they're gonna do some cool things, and they did. But of course, maybe I'm not sure how to ref this. I'm not a ref, right? because some might say because he was calling stuff all the time, people were getting chippy. I don't know, but you could also say if he doesn't call those things, then people lose control and they continue to start escalating. I don't know. He didn't have control over the game is pretty much my view of it. Both coaches, well, both teams kind of agreed to it. I know Jim Curtin said that the occasion was too big for the ref. It was his first playoff game, and it was noticeable. He said, that's all I'm going to say about it, which is smart. Don't want to get fined. I didn't really see what Pat Noonan said about it, but I know Cincy fans weren't happy with the ref. Philly fans weren't happy with the ref. I wasn't happy with the ref, and I'm usually kind of unbiased in that kind of way. So I usually give the ref a benefit of doubt, but it was just so much stop-start. The game had no flow. And I saw neutrals complaining about that, how bad the game was because of that. But I enjoyed the hell out of it, maybe because it was my team. But when you have stuff get chippy, when you have this stuff go on, it just shows to me passion, right? There's passion in these players to lay it out on the field, to get it in there. They might get a little wild, but there was no red cards. There were, nothing wrong in that regard. So they handled everything fine. And I saw some people saying, I hope both teams lose because of the way they acted. I saw all this kind of stuff. I saw some people saying they're rooting for Montreal now because of the way that they acted. This is, of course, before NYCFC knocked them out. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't see anything wrong that these two teams did that other teams haven't done. And it seemed pretty standard to me. Yes, both teams kind of dove a bit at times trying to get calls, but when the ref is calling everything, I think that leads to more diving. So I don't know. That's kind of where I stand with it. I thought it was a fun game, very physical game, old school physical game. I like those type of games. So for me, I really enjoyed it, especially the result.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has, like a chance to be. I don't think a chance to be. I think it definitely is one of our rivalries now. There's no doubt that this is, and you tweeted it, that this is a rivalry being born, and the makings of this is because, I mean, it is. It's like Philadelphia Union and Philadelphia Union Light. So it just it definitely had that feel to it. Like you said, I hate games that are so choppy because of the foul calls. And it just seems like this guy just the whole time, I forget the ref was, but just felt like the whole time he had his whistle in his mouth ready to blow something. It was, I think it was Jose Martinez that went in pretty hard on somebody. And I was actually shocked he didn't get more than just like a no, don't do that.
Yeah, that was a rough tackle. That was a rough tackle.
I was like, oof, he's lucky that he got away with that because, I mean, you're looking at somebody else and it could be a red. So it was that and he just shook it off like, no, don't do that again.
It wasn't even a yellow, I don't think.
Eventually Jose gets a yellow. But now, you stack up, I think they had 6 yellows total in that whole game. But it just felt like, especially there was a stretch there, like right after halftime where it was so awful to watch just because, and awful to watch, I mean, because it just fouls after foul after foul after foul after foul, and then subs, and then there's a stretch there where it was so sloppy and so. But that being said, man, they really don't like each other. You can just tell neither of these teams like each other. The crowd was hostile towards Cincinnati, and a good Philly crowd is always fun just because they're a lot more harsh, I think, on pretty much everybody in the whole stadium than some of these other fan bases. But man, sign me up for a ton of these down the road just because I'm a huge fan of this Philadelphia-Cincinnati rivalry that I think Jordan could, if Cincinnati moves the right pieces around, I think they could end up being formidable opponents for Philadelphia in the future, just because I think the two of them really do have that Midwestern, even though Philadelphia is more East Coast. They just have that fan base that I think between the two of them could get really passionate. So,
yeah, it's if Cincy makes the right moves, and you have another year Pat Noonan and Chris Albright at the helm, then yeah, I think that they can make a run to a conference final. They were only one game away from a conference final, so I mean they could realistically get to an MLS Cup. They played pretty well, and it's going to be about making sure they do it again, right? And I don't know. I feel like with Pat Noonan learning from Jim Curtin, he's probably going to be able to bring that stability. And Chris Albright coming from the Union anyway, right? Like he, as a GM, is probably going to afford Pat the chance to stay and to build a squad and to not get fired, right? I mean, there were so many times people were calling for Jim Curtin's head early on, and Pat Noonan just came in and immediately took them to a semifinal in the Eastern Conference. So if they are able to, MLS is a wild beast, so who knows if they're going to be able to be consistently good going forward. But if they're able to find those pieces and put them together the way the Union have, then I think going forward, you could see this matchup a lot, and you could see Cincinnati becoming as consistent as the Union going forward, which would be great for their fan base because they're a great fan base. And that's kind of what the league needs. The league needs more natural rivalries. If this matchup happens all the time and it is like that game, that's the Union's natural rival. You can try to say that their rival is Red Bull. That's manufactured just because it's New York and from other sports. You can say NYCFC. Maybe. I think we do have a rivalry with them. Our games kind of look like that Cincinnati game against them all the time. Remember when our staffer went out and pushed NYCFC players? But so there is that vibe. But I think this one would jump up so much to Cincy because of the history between us sharing players, sharing executives, sharing coaches, that it'll be like this very like big brother, little brother rivalry. But what I think would feel the best about it is that it's not manufactured. It is something that can take a life of its own. Because the reason they hate Red Bull and NYCFC is because they're New York teams. Philly doesn't like New York in every sport, right? The Mets, the Phillies, the Giants, the Eagles, like every sport. Sixers, who are the Sixers rivals? Knicks? Do they have a rivalry with the Knicks? I don't know. But
I guess. Yeah.
It's that kind of stuff that you're like, that's great. Because so many times we have these like forced rivalries, right? Like, because they're either in proximity or literally when there wasn't some in close proximity, they made up ones. They were like, what was it, Crew in Toronto? Or like, there's some weird rivalry that they tried to push 10 years ago because they literally had no rival close to them that they're like, okay, these are Chicago, Toronto. There you go. There's your big rival. It doesn't make any sense. And I hope that at one point MLS can grab this and say, if this does become a rivalry, this is rival. All right, we put them on rivalry week against each other. Like we don't have to put like these fake rivalries, manufactured rivalries. Like Philly, DC are supposed to be one as well, right? But again, that's because of Washington football team and the Eagles, and it's like this whole vibe of like coming from other sports, and that's not always the case, right? Like look at some of these other sports, right, that are not always in divisions with each other. So I can say this because as a Baltimore Orioles and Ravens fan, I have very different teams in my division in each sport. So Pittsburgh Steelers are the Ravens' huge rival. I don't give a crap about the Pirates. I don't, because they're not in the Orioles division.
Right.
Same thing with Cleveland Browns versus the Ravens. All right, I don't care about the Guardians. Like, that's not a rivalry to me. Yankees, guess what? I don't really care about the Giants or the Jets. That's not a rivalry to me because as a Raven fan. So the more we can lean away from just being, I hate these in our other division of our other sports, so I'm going to hate them in this sport, I think the better MLS will be.
You know what I think does a good job of that? I think the NFL has created a good, ever-changing rivalry system where, right now, if I said who are the big rivals in the AFC, I would say the Chiefs and the Bills, just because they're going to consistently match up with one another. Right now, I'd even argue that in baseball, the Astros and the Yankees have become, in no shape of their proximity to one another, they've become rivals just because they play so much. I mean, it really is that understanding of like you become rivals with people that you're constantly up against. Like you have the Sixers and Celtics right now, or the Nets and Celtics. Like it just seems to be that idea. It doesn't have to be proximity, and I know that's New York, Boston, but like it doesn't really necessarily have to always be that way. Like they always try to force Miami upon Orlando, and right now, I mean, it's gotten better, but like a year ago, Orlando's like, yeah, right, whatever. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to let's let them organically create themselves. Like right now, I could see LAFC and Austin becoming a big thing over the next couple of years, just because they're both really good, talented teams that have a lot of resources at their hand and they're at their disposal. So I think that could be a consistent rivalry coming up. In the East, probably not so much because all the teams suck. So it's like, it just doesn't it doesn't make sense to kind of force these rivalries. Just let them happen organically. Don't do it because of proximity or to how close your clubs are together.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Hey, next year I'm probably putting Cincy not in the wooden spoon spot this year. So we didn't this year either. But yeah, they'll probably be in a playoff spot for me next year because I don't see the Revs turning it around that quick. I don't see Atlanta turning it around that quick. Cruz a question mark without a new coach yet. Like, I don't know. There's spots for Nashville to come back over in the East and grab a spot, and there's a good chance since he keeps its spot and actually maybe moves up a little bit on the East. That's what I think. Where did we go west-wise? Okay, yeah, we put Austin 13th. Let's not let Austin fans know that. Let's go to that. Austin beat FC Dallas 2-1. They were 2-0 up in the span of 29 minutes, and both those goals were 3 minutes apart, 26th and 29th minute. Giette and Jerussi in the 26th and 29th minute, and Velasco in the 65th for Dallas to make it interesting. But Austin move through, and man, Anthony Precourt goes on Twitter today. And this is like, I think this is fine for locker room material, but I don't know why you have to bring this out on Twitter all the time. But Precourt posts a laminated piece of paper that shows MLSsoccer.com experts, and has Weeby, Tom Boger, Matt Doyle, all these people that write for MLSsoccer.com, and did their predictions. And it had where they put them, like, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, whatever. And he was like, don't forget where we came from and all this stuff. And it's like, sir, you came from Columbus and we're trying to move that team. So don't even get me started on that. But I think at some point when you're the second seed in the West, you just got to let this go. You beat two teams that you should have beaten so far to get to this spot. And now is where you really test yourself. You're going up against the number one seed in the West, a team that they, I believe, beat both times this year. I have to check that. I believe they did. Or didn't lose to. Let me check real quick. LAFC versus Austin. They beat them twice, 2-1, 4-1. Okay. So now you are able to prove it. Go out there, win this game, get to MLS Cup final, and I'm sure people will stop doubting you. I mean, they already kind of stopped doubting you like 10 weeks into the season because you weren't going anywhere. I don't know. I just think it's very weird when like, I understand needing motivation if you're a player, and I understand like needing that locker room stuff probably in the locker room. But I think it's weird when the owner of the company is the owner of the team is posting about this, and some of the players are speaking about it openly. I'm actually kind of okay with fans bringing it up, but at a certain point, it's like this league is unpredictable, Logan. I mean, I've watched this league since 2007, and I didn't get most of these right. And I'm not an expert, obviously, but I mean, I don't know. It's a tough league to predict. This is like flipping a coin sometimes. And one reason why I think it's very hard to predict is, unlike other sports where you can see, oh, they made a trade for this player or they signed this free agent. A lot of times in this league, if they bring a player from another country or another league, we don't know how they're going to adapt to this league. We don't know how they're going to do this. Like, okay, if I don't know, the Browns went and got Josh Allen, we'd probably think Josh Allen's going to be good at the Browns either way, right? But if they went out and signed a Euro NFL player when that was around, we have to wonder, is he going to be able to come in and play at the NFL level? That's what we have to do with MLS all the time. Oh, they signed Jerusi. How is that? Or they signed Giette, you know? How is he going to fit in? We got to see bits of it at the end of last year, but at certain times, there's some of these players with any team where we're like, oh, they made this big signing, and they come in and do nothing. Like Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta knows all about that. And I think that's what adds another wrinkle into this prediction for MLS.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's so many things to say about it, though. Like while it is nice to have an idea of how teams are going to do, I think it's the beauty of the league too, of not knowing how your team's going to perform when these guys do come over. Like you said, Jordan, I mean, so the Crew, for instance, right? We talked about this time and time again, how we thought they were stacked up enough to become one of those teams that we remember throughout history as being one of the best teams that we'll ever see. And, even adding Gareth Bale to LAFC this year, you thought, okay, man, if he plays. The
guy who's proven.
Right.
In La Liga and EPL, yes.
Right. And it never works out. Gonzalo Higuain thought he would score 20 here. Never did. It just seems like it gets to a point where this league is expecting unexpected. Like you and I both watched that show where you just expect the craziness to happen, and it constantly does here, and I love it. I like that I can't go into season and think Manchester City is going to win the Premier League again. Like, I like going into a year going, heck if I know. Look at the Western Conference. I think, what did we say? We had 2 teams that came back to the playoffs that were in the playoffs last year. I think the other 5.
Just 2. Just 2.
Right.
That is what, okay, Sounders didn't make it. Sporting didn't make it. Portland didn't make it. The only teams, LAFC didn't make it. The only teams that made it 2 years in a row, what? Minnesota and Salt Lake.
Salt Lake, yeah.
Who would have guessed?
Right. And the best team in the league this year missed the playoffs. Like, in 1 year, it went from it's what makes this league beautiful. Now, that being said, if I'm Anthony Precourt, you already have a case built against you as to why people shouldn't like you and what you build and what your brand is. The guy turns on a dime on just about anybody. And here he is, and Jordan, laminating, meaning he had to print this and get somebody to think it was a good idea to get a laminator to laminate this and then probably hand them out. I'm assuming all the players have this. It was part of like this big, welcome to the season kind of thing. And staff, and they all have it hanging up in their office, and they all have it hanging up in their lockers. Like the extent they went to, and I get locker room stuff. I played sports, but you never what people have said about you, but it's more of like, let's just go kick their throats in and
prove them wrong.
Yeah, right. It's not like
keep bringing it up.
Let's go get a plaque. Like, let's go get a plaque made that says Andrew Weeby's wrong. Like, Andrew Weeby's just doing his job, and he's betting against the averages. Like.
Well, and that's the thing, too. They had one season to base it off of. A season that they were very poor in, and many Austin fans were saying Wolf should get fired. So they didn't see it coming. The only people that probably believed in themselves were the team and the executives and the coach. That's probably it. That's probably it that believed in themselves going into this season. I mean, when we had our Austin preview, Moon Tower said, finish 6, get into the playoffs. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like expected for them to be second place. And again, with some of these changes that they've made to their squad and stuff going into it, sometimes you just don't know how that's going to work out. We've seen that with so many teams every year. Toronto spent like $20 million in the summer and still didn't make it. But I'm sure people are going to probably put them high up next year because you're thinking, okay, they're going to have time to maybe work it out. Or maybe people put them out of the playoffs and then next year it's a repeat of this, but it's all Toronto players saying, you guys doubted us. Right. I don't know. I think it's funny. I think Sam Stejskal said he hopes that at the if they win MLS Cup, they just lift instead of the cup, they lift the laminated piece of paper.
Can we get it like posted on the cup? Like, can we get it like stuck to the cup? Like another thing too is Jordan. This league is humbling, so watch out. You're one really not so great thing happening to being,
and they're very confident.
On the floor.
They're very confident of beating LAFC right now because they beat them twice this year.
Easy.
This could turn on a dime, man. Yeah. I don't know. I look, Austin, most of America's rooting for you at this point because either they want Philly to host or because they don't like LAFC. So they are rooting for you. Just we don't have to keep playing that card all the time.
But just look at where LAFC are. Look at the humble beginnings that Atlanta had, right? Like Atlanta got to the peak and got to the mountaintop and got it and won it.
And then immediately
now look. So be very careful. I'm just saying. I
tripped at the top of the mountain and fell down.
Yes. And Jordan and I have been your fans since day one. And we just give you a hard time about this pre-court thing because I think it's ridiculous that a number 2 seed needs fuel. If you thought you were that good, you don't need locker room stuff. Just saying. But if you're not careful, man, you could be rooting for a team that, and I'm not saying it'll happen in Austin. There are different situations, but man, did Atlanta think they have the resources just like Austin? Probably
they have
more
the fan
resources.
Base, they have the resources, they have the owner with the pocketbook, a bigger pocketbook than pre-court. So, yeah,
careful what you wish for. Don't go after other fans when you're in your highest moments because when you're in your lowest moments, we don't feel bad.
They bookmark them. They come back to you.
I get it.
I'm sure. But yes. Hey, you got a fan this upcoming weekend because I want to host that game.
Yeah.
So, yes. Montreal and NYCFC. NYCFC win this one 3-1, Logan. Guess what? I was able to turn this off at halftime. 2-0 NYCFC. I knew it was over. And Montreal kind of makes a comeback in the 85th minute. At that point, it's 3-0. And it was actually, I think I probably turned it off at the 3-0 penalty. But they had better XG, Montreal did, but they didn't actually capitalize on it. And they're knocked out. They were a lot of people's dark horses. And we thought that they could be a dark horse, I think, right? But last week, both of us picked NYCFC to move on. We just thought they were too strong, and that's what it was. I don't know. It just seems Montreal was flat. They looked really flat in this game. What time was this kickoff? This was the 8 o'clock, right? Wow. Yeah, this was the 8 o'clock kickoff yesterday. Okay. It felt like the 1 o'clock because they were so... No, this was the 1 o'clock.
I was going to say
that is why. Yeah, that's why. That's why it felt like the 1 o'clock.
Right.
And that's why Montreal was probably flat. It's also why Union fans are so happy they have the 8 o'clock game and they're hoping that LAFC is flat for their noon game on the West Coast. But we'll see, I guess. But yeah, Montreal get knocked out and sad, but a pretty good season for Montreal. Something they can hang their hat on. But NYCFC look pretty dangerous. I'm nervous going into the game next Sunday, but the home field advantage should be pretty big. Bedoya is supposed to be coming back, so that's probably pretty good. But I don't know, NYCFC able to pull it out. They've lost Tati Castellanos. He went overseas. They got a new coach because they lost their coach. And here they are back in the same spot they were last year. And conceivably, Logan, they could win 2 MLS Cups in a row with everything that just happened to them this year. And if you're an NYCFC fan, that's got to be like the icing on the cake, because the cherry on top would be a stadium announcement right after the season ends. But I think right now you're probably only getting the icing if you get that second MLS Cup.
Somebody's going to hang banners in that stadium.
Here's a good question. Here's a good question. If they win another MLS Cup, do they purposely make that banner bigger now? Or do you think they roll with the same size? Because they got clowned on. I would think they're like, we got to double it. We got to triple it. We got to make it bigger so that way we don't get clowned on again.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably what the Steinbrenners want with all that understanding of like what that whole idea of we don't want our stadium to look ugly, like kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they do with it. But just kind of and just I guess talking about Montreal, Mihailovic is gone. Victor Wanyama is hanging it up as far as MLS is concerned. I don't think he ever made an announcement whether he's retiring or if he's heading back overseas to go play and final out his career. I think he's French, right? So I think going back over there and playing is enticing to him. But they got some good pieces. Like I think Lapalainen has always been pretty decent. They've got Kamal Miller. They have a guy in Kone who looked fantastic. You're going to hopefully have a healthy Kyoto. You've got Kamara. So you've got really nice pieces to kind of fill in Mason Toy. So it's not a complete rebuild, but it is going to be really hard to replace Georgi Mihailovic, who I think Jordan, if he hadn't gotten hurt and kind of had that kind of derail his season a little bit, I think we're talking about him too in the MVP conversation. Not sure he gets it just because I think
they could have finished top of the East.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
They're only 2 points shy of it. I mean.
Right. But again, it is tough because Montreal, man, they played so well to just kind of fizzle out here at the end. And when I say fizzle, I mean they really did just drop this game on its head. It was just it didn't
down
look like
2-0 pretty early, and falling asleep. That second goal, that through ball to
the defenders like
they were asleep, man. It was rough.
But hey, NYCFC looks good. I think with Abear playing the way that he's playing, Tyus Magno coming in off the bench and performing pretty well in the last couple of matches. You got Maxi Morales getting back in there and mixing it up. You've got probably the second best keeper in the league right now, playing in behind Andre Blake. Like, talk about a great matchup for keepers, man. If you really want to see a great matchup, go watch Sean Johnson play against Andre Blake in this one. So, man, I mean, Sean Johnson's probably the best looking keeper the U.S. has right now. So he's
Turner's
playing. Turner's been great when he's played. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this, man. I think it's going to be a great game. I think NYCFC
8 o'clock on FS1 and
prime time, baby.
It's going to be great.
It is. So, but man, down by the river, we're going to see what happens.
I am really hyped for it. So I guess we should give our predictions now for this next round? Like, I don't have like maybe talk some of the matchups. So we got LAFC versus Austin. Like I said, this year, Austin has won both of those games by pretty good score lines. But which means they won one of them at Bank of California Stadium. So I think, though, it's going to be a very different vibe going there for a conference final. The fans are going to be rowdy. It might be a tougher place to play for Austin, who haven't looked great, I would say. That RSL game really was a downer, I think. And then, they got out to the 2-0 lead against Dallas, and you're thinking, all right, they're going to lock this up. And then Dallas scored around 60 minutes in, which is exactly what they needed to be able to give them a chance, but they weren't able to execute on the chance. So what would you say, Logan? Austin versus LAFC, who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into LA does not help Austin's case. Yes, I know they've beaten them twice. I think there's a lot of people rooting for Austin. I think LAFC kind of have that name where you just root against them if you're anybody but them. So I don't know. I think a lot's riding, a lot of pressures on Austin to kind of pull this out, I think, from their fans, which is really weird to say just because this is, it's their first playoff run, and these fans, I just think their fans have high expectations of them. So I think that for just a first-year team, I mean, the pressure's kind of mounting for them just because I think they're trying to impress everybody. I think they can win this because they've beaten them twice, but I just don't think LAFC is going to let it happen at home. As much as people might want to see the Union play at home, I know Jordan yourself would like to see the Union at home, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think LAFC pull this off. I'm going to say LAFC wins 2-1. That's what my final prediction is going to be.
2-1?
Yeah.
All right. So, Austin fans, I know I picked at Dallas last week. That was the only time I got one wrong this playoff, actually. But I am going to go with Austin this time. 3-2 Austin FC. The Union get to host MLS Cup. And do you want to know another fun stat, Logan?
Mm-hmm.
This would be the first time Austin and Philly face off if they get to the final.
That'd be fun.
That's, because they just started last year, obviously. But, yeah, I looked at all the – I saw somebody mention it, and I just double-checked it. I went through the scores of each game last year, and, yeah, they did not play each other last year, and they didn't play each other this year. So that would be – what a way, if both of them get to the final, to have their first matchup against each other as MLS Cup final. Because anytime you play each other again and that's not the final – the person who won the cup has the bragging rights. I'm sorry. But you can't get – I'm of the opinion you can't get revenge on a team if it's not under the same circumstances. So what I mean by that is when the Bills beat the Chiefs this year and they kept saying revenge game, the Bills won, the Bills got revenge for the Chiefs beating them. No, the Chiefs won the important game in the playoffs. I don't think – it's not comparable. So let's say – Austin beat Philly in the final this year. If Philly and Austin play each other next year and Philly wins, it's not getting revenge in my case because you won a meaningless regular season game and not the big one. So that would be funny if that is the first time they ever play each other and it's this ultimate bragging rights for pretty much any time onward. 20 years from now, you could be like, oh, we beat you. And they'd be like, yeah, but we still won the first time that we ever played each other, which was MLS Cup, and we hosted the Cup. It's like all-time bragging rights. So let's go to Philly versus I wrote down Austin. Sorry. Philly versus NYCFC in Philadelphia. Logan, who do you got in this matchup?
So I'm kind of looking at their head-to-head. I like that FBref does this because I was like, I wonder how Philly does with NYCFC at home. And Jordan is 5-5, I think, from what I can kind of gather here in regular season games when the game's been in Philadelphia. So there's not like a clear-cut advantage there per se. I will say, however, that NYCFC had that good stretch of or that good stretch where they had competitive seasons and were a formidable opponent. And I think I don't know. It's just different this year. I think the Union. They're going to have Alejandro Bedoya back. It sounds like you sent me that tweet that said, I think it was a Philly writer that said that Jim Curtin was asked about Ali and Bedoya was pretty much like, yeah, he's not missing this one. Which pretty much alludes to the fact that he only missed the Cincy game because I think Curtin thought, well, I think we can stand our ground against a Cincinnati team without Bedoya. But now you get him back out there and honestly, Jordan, you get your captain back out there. It sparks a whole different kind of life into the team. I will say that NYCFC looks great in the attack. I think they're starting to really come around and get hot at the right time. I think this will be a good game. But I think I called it last show, Cincinnati would be the hardest game that Philadelphia has to face. I just don't think NYCFC is going to have to score or going to be able to score on this Philadelphia defense. I just don't think it's going to be possible. I'm going to go 2-0 Union win at home, sealing their trip to LAFC to face the boys in black and gold.
So this is kind of scary reading this because, yes, Philly has beat NYCFC both times this year,
Yeah.
but they haven't played them since June 26th, my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the game that got real chippy in Philly with the, staff member push and getting the red card and all that kind of stuff. So I think Tati was still there at that point. A very different team at this point. And that's the last time they played. And then earlier, last time they played before that was March 19th, like not long after the season started, that Philly beat NYCFC 2-0 at Yankee Stadium. But at Subaru Park since 2021, since this post-COVID world where like 2020 they played at Wide World of Sports, since then in 2021 at Subaru Park, both teams have won 2 games out of the 4 at Subaru Park. So very even. The scores are very close. 2-0 NYCFC, 1-0 Union, 2-1 NYCFC, 2-1 Union. So I think I'm going to go in honor of that and say 2-1 Union at home against NYCFC. And this could be this will be unbearable if NYCFC win this, because they're going to say, last year you said you'd beat us if you had your full squad, and you have your full squad. So yes, that is going to be a thing that Union fans are going to have to deal with if they lose this game. But I have faith that they'll be able to pull this out. It's just a little scary, and I'm going to get more scared as we get closer to game day on Sunday as a Union fan. But this is anybody's game. For both of these matchups, I would not be shocked with any matchup we get. LAFC versus NYCFC. LAFC versus Union, Austin versus NYCFC, Austin versus Union. These are 4 really good teams that have made it this far.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like, this is a fun year. And like I said, if NYCFC lose, we have a new MLS Cup winner. There's going to be a new team with a star above their crest going into next season. And I think that's something that's very good. Something very good for neutrals, too, to be able to say and look at it and say, look, if Austin wins this all the way, any team coming into MLS, Charlotte, St. Louis, they can be like, we can conceivably win it in 2 years. We can conceivably win it in 3 years. That's kind of what Atlanta did for some teams. But when you see a team like that who came in, had an awful first season, turned it around, and immediately wins it or gets close. LAFC, who missed the playoffs last year, this year gets in and can host the final after winning Supporter Shield with a brand new coach. I think that has every team looking, saying, we can conceivably win it next year. And I think that's the best part about this league, is truly no one is out except for DC United next year going into this.
I mean, yeah, there are definitely some teams you look at and go, yeah, no way.
DC and San Jose, you're probably not going to make it.
Right.
But
yeah. But like you said,
other teams can turn it around.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you can go from a 13th, 12th place team to, I mean, conceivably the MLS Cup champs and battled for Supporter Shield for most of the year until LFC kind of drag you out. But yeah, I mean, it is, man. This is an exciting league. I like that it's so equal in the fact that they can pretty much build. I mean, you've got the similar resources. I mean, obviously some have more money than others, but I mean, for the most part, this is probably the most equal playing field, especially in American sports, that we have. So, I just kind of cherish that.
Why too? You don't have anybody tanking because the draft is not a big enough resource for you to tank for somebody. So unlike baseball, unlike football, unlike basketball, where you're going to tank so you can get a good quarterback that's coming up in the draft, or a good basketball player. Like, people are talking about tanking for the hot basketball player right now. You can't have that, because who are you tanking for?
Right.
A 24-year-old who played NCAA soccer? Where you get it the best is by going and getting DPs, going and getting youth players that you can sign in your area. That is how you compete in this league. So tanking doesn't really do much for you The only reason teams would tank really is to save money, and that's probably what some teams have done. But conceivably, they were in the playoff hunt until the beginning of September still, that they were starting to get actually mathematically eliminated.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to pull a bin bender out of every draft.
No. But that LAFC Austin game is at 3 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. And Philly, New York City FC, 8 o'clock on FS1. Philly fans got a lot to cheer about. If they get to MLS Cup Final and the World Series gets to Game 7, they will have Phillies and the Union playing at the same day for a championship. So that's something that would be fun. I'm sure Philly fans don't want it to get to Game 7. You probably just want to sweep. Obviously, that's like the ideal thing. But it is funny how that could conceivably play out. But guess what? MLS Cup Finals at 4 o'clock. The World Series is at 8 o'clock every day when it plays. So you'll be able to watch both if it gets to that point. And I think the Eagles would probably play 1 o'clock. You could conceivably go Eagles at 1, Union at 4. No, never mind. That's a Saturday. Okay. I was going to say, but the next day they would have the Eagles playing, who are one of the best teams in the NFL. So Philly fans are feeling pretty good, I'm sure. Andre Blake was just ringing the bell at the Sixers game. So today.
Oh, that means he was on the Pacers game.
Yeah.
Yep. Andre Blake was also, or no. Somebody was at the Phillies game last night. Was it Andre Blake? I think Andre Blake was at the Phillies game last night too. It was Andre Blake. He definitely was. Man, what a round he's having, huh? Like, they're just like, let's go to the Worlds or the NLCS.
Did you see the news clip?
Oh, yes, the girls.
Yes.
Who are the Union?
When they're the Union. She's like, oh, you mean like the city
the
worker?
Yeah. The blue-collared city workers.
Yeah.
They're like, no.
And at that point, the sports person was like, never mind, go Phillies, go Phillies. And then they still kept asking questions. He's like, no, never mind.
don't worry about it. We're fans of the workers' unions. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. So also, just real quick, Ben Olsen is in talks with Houston.
Oh, really?
For their head coaching job. Be interesting. He had some good seasons at DC and had some mediocre seasons at DC.
Right.
Had some awful seasons at DC. He was there for a while. Was that just a DC United thing, or is it an indictment on Ben Olsen? Who knows?
That rotational pool is getting shallow, Jordan.
Yep.
Matias Almada.
Yeah, where's he at? I think they were also talking to somebody else. I don't have it in front of me here, but
Lucci must not be available.
No. Oh, Hugo Perez. Hugo Perez
that's right.
was also in talks.
Who signed Lucci? Why not?
Isn't he with the
San Jose?
Yeah,
right?
San Jose.
Right. I was like, somebody signed Lucci. I just can't remember who it was.
World Cup is coming soon. So yeah, we got that coming for you. Should be fun. If you want to give us all follows or keep up with our soccer takes, I guess, on Twitter at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, YouTube, search Stateside Soccer Show. Email us statesideshow@gmail.com. And yeah, that about wraps us up. I hope everyone has a great rest of their week, and we'll catch you next time when we break down the conference finals and know who's in MLS Cup Final, make our final predictions for the MLS Cup Final, and then get ready to start talking about the expansion draft, roster locks for the U.S. men's national team, preview the World Cup, and head into World Cup 2022 in Qatar. So make sure you have your cell phones when you go to Qatar so they can track your every movement. And we'll catch you all next time here on Stateside Soccer.
Jordan, I think I'm going to get our theme song laminated.
That'd be cool. How are you going to do that?
I don't know, but I'm going to ask Anthony Precourt if he knows.
Can you do that thing where they like make it like a sound wave
Absolutely, yeah.
and then laminate it.
Let's do
that.
All right. Well, goodbye.